What are you going to do about them? Be specific. Examples: clean streets, dogs on beach, cleaning up after your dog, noise ordinance enforcement. And we're going to go in the same order right now as the opening statement, and then we'll skip. Ms. Tozer, you're first.
Thank you. Okay. So quality of life obviously covers pretty much everything that's here. So the first thing we'll talk about, obviously, parking. That's a big issue, especially in the business district and in the West End, of course in the walks as well. We have to start doing some things and pilots in each one of these neighborhoods. We've talked about striping, angled parking. There's so many things that we can do. We just have to start it. You know what I mean? Like, we have to just get out there and do it. Okay. Another big thing that I'm a big proponent of is having a specific area for a dog beach. And this is, to be very specific about it, everybody that has a dog, and there's a lot of people in Long Beach that do have dogs, and 67% of all residents live in high-rises, and not all high-rises even allow pets. So if you have a pet and you want to register your pet with Long Beach, and you want to make sure that your dog has all of its shots and everything is taken care of, then you would be allowed to be in this one area. I mean, we're the only city with a boardwalk on the beach that doesn't have a dog beach. So that's something that I would really like to see done. Enforcement also. This is something that we just don't do, and we see it in all of the businesses. There really just isn't enough enforcement going around the city at all. And this is something that would also bring up revenues. I'm sorry. Okay, later.
Thank you. Ms. Diamond.
Thank you very much. First of all, look, Long Beach is a beautiful place. We all live here. We've come off of a summer where we had concerts on the beach just about every single night. There were races on Sunday. There's a real community atmosphere, and we all get to cherish and participate in that. And that's a quality of life issue. With regard to and so we need to continue to provide those things and provide those services and the different things that create and make Long Beach unique and a special community. With regard to the dogs on the beach, I'm not opposed to a pilot program that would allow in some way for us to have that access. I've knocked on hundreds of doors, and that's an issue that comes up regularly and something that I think that we need to pursue, but ensure that it's done in a safe way, both safe for our residents, safe for the people who use the beach, and safe for the animals themselves, so that we make sure that everyone is taken care of. In addition, I think that we need part of a quality of life is ensuring that we continue to have a resilient community. We need to continue to ensure that our beach is safe with projects such as the Army Corps project. We need to continue to ensure that we can protect against flooding, such as the bulkheading projects on the North Shore, the critical infrastructure programs on the North Shore as well, as in addition to the Complete Streets project, which also prevents and builds upon ensuring that the flooding issues that continue to plague us are eliminated and alleviated. So those are all quality of life issues that we need to continue to work on.
Thank you. Mr. Naham.
Yes. So quality of life, I think that first I would start with our boardwalk. We have too many obstacles on our boardwalk, just naming social bicycle rental kiosks, the stands, the bleachers that are right adjacent to across from the scaffolding. That, excuse me, everybody is congested into a bicycle lane. That's very dangerous. I think we also very much need to focus on how inviting or uninviting our city is when we come into Long Beach Boulevard. The planter that we drive over the bridge and come into our hometown, I think, is not beautiful. I think that we should do more to beautify it. I think we should do more to beautify the malls and on the boulevards. I study horticulture. I know thousands of genus and species of nomenclature, plants and insects, and I would be very happy to try to replace the turf, which brings up, there's no water, from a scientific perspective, it does not allow water to seep into the ground. It spills out onto the streets and it adds flooding. We could have native plants that could attract native birds, attract native insects. The birds eat the insects, and influence residents for their own landscaping influence. And we have to also, most importantly, do something about our aquifer. That is the most important part of our quality of life, and also a hospital. That's, I think I have more time. No, I don't.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jones.
Thank you. Well, I think Long Beach is a great place and it's beautiful, but naturally there is some room for improvement. I think a main thing is to prevent the overdevelopment. I think that would lead to a poorer quality of life. I think it would make the population more dense with a poor infrastructure. It would lead to browner water possibly. It would lead to more cars in our streets, causing more chaos and traffic. Another thing for quality of life, I think that we should address is safer beaches. And I'm not talking about the big trucks that are doing the work right now. I'm talking about the drownings that occur after the lifeguards leave. And I must say to the residents here, it is never you guys. It is always the people that come visit here. It is the day trippers. I feel like if we work out day passes with the Long Island Railroad, I feel like we should work out maybe putting a poster up there that gives a little statistic of when the drownings occur, why they occur, and I know the MTA does that with subway accidents. And then finally, I'd like to address the crime, most specifically the drugs. It is an epidemic nationwide, which spewed over to Long Island, which spewed over to Suffolk County, which came to Nassau County, and it is prevalent here. We might sweep it under the rug a little bit, but I've hugged enough grieving mothers to tell you that it is something that does exist here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Haas.
I lost the parking and I lost the overdevelopment, so I think a big issue here in Long Beach as far as quality of life goes.
Mr. Haas, would you want to move the microphone closer?
I think a big issue here in Long Beach as far as quality of life goes is that we do not have a hospital. We have a high population density here. We have a high median age level here, and we're at the whim of Mother Nature. So we need a hospital here to meet the medical needs of the Long Beach community. My big pet peeve over the whole thing is that we have $140 million sitting over in Oceanside, and that was federal money earmarked for the Long Beach resident. And not only that, there's two conditions, preventive care and acute care, that require travel, and that makes it difficult on the elderly and the poor. And there's also 9 conditions that currently you can't be treated at the Long Beach facility, and they're not extraneous conditions. It's trauma, burns, dislocations, stuff like that. And then lastly, we lose a lot of really good paying jobs over to Oceanside. So I would like to see a hospital here.
Thank you. And Mr. Mendel.
Well, the issue of quality of life is a large one. And when I look back to almost 6 years ago when I first joined the council, we've come so far and have increased everything that there is to offer to residents. You cannot leave Long Beach and, put it this way, any festival, any fair, music concerts, art concerts, we have a new Long Beach Arts Council. These are things that were created, and if they existed before, we've amplified since the time we've been here on the council. Of course, there's always room for improvement, and there's always room if people have suggestions to try to implement new things. For example, dogs on the beach. That's something that would have to be weighed. Even though there are plenty of people who want it, you'd be surprised at how many people don't want it and are afraid that their kids are going to get bitten by a dog. One of my colleagues up here had just mentioned they believe there's a lack of police enforcement. I disagree with that, but how can you have dogs on the beach and then have a lack of police enforcement? Everything has to be balanced. Parking is an issue here, it always has been. That's something that we'd have to look into. The issue of quality of life is something that can't be summed up in a minute. It's something that we have to evolve into and be very vigilant to make sure that we keep the high level of standards and services that people here come to expect and deserve.
Thank you. And Ms. Blanchett.
Thank you. Yes, this is a really difficult question to answer within a minute to a minute and a half. So I'm going to talk about what comes natural to me, and that is our streets and the quality of life issue with accessing our streets safely. We need to really bump up, and I'm not talking about complete streets as a slogan. We need to actually take this seriously. people cannot bike or walk safely. Our children can't get to school safely. You know, this is definitely a quality of life issue. And raise your hand if you've had a bicycle, actually no, raise your hand if you haven't had your bicycle stolen from the train station. Because it's, I mean, talk about quality of life, you know, that's another issue. For some people, that's their mode of transportation. I know it is for me. You know, having a safe commuter station where, you know, we're not in fear, that's another issue. So, you know, for me, I'm a total transportation head and public safety head and, you know, policy wonk with that stuff. So, you know, that's the kind of issues that I, you know, would champion as far as quality of life type stuff, you know. Having a fighting chance to cross the street. Some people, you know, Scott here, he was one of the people who voted in favor of changing those traffic lights. Can anyone cross the street in one go? No, we can't. Like, it's, yeah, that's because you're running. I've seen you. So, you know, that's like a real issue that gets swept under the rug. Streets.
Thank you. Mr. Bendo.
Thank you. Resident quality of life, I think the first place it starts is with open communication. Right now, for example, if you want to engage with the city council, you can come to Good and Welfare and you get 3 minutes to say your piece, and Scott's probably sick and tired of hearing from me after 6 years, but at Good and Welfare. But I would hold monthly open resident forums where people can come in and discuss their quality of life issues with me. Outside of a council meeting, no 3-minute time limits in an informal setting, because some people aren't comfortable getting up in a public setting like that. So just starting that communication. As I said earlier, I started the movies on the beach. I think that's added a great family-friendly, free thing to do for our residents in the summertime. Another issue is things like, and this is actually up Allison's alley, but things like bike lanes and things like that. Has anybody seen a real bike lane anywhere in the city? We got these little things where they paint the bicycle picture on the ground, but there's no delineated lane. So,
They're called bicycle sharrows, John.
Thank you. So, there's things like that. This is kind of a personal pet peeve of mine, but even weird things like the timing of the traffic lights. Anybody try to drive across this town? I go 1.7 miles from my house to the train station in the morning, and I could hit 6 traffic lights in that amount of time. It's just, so it drives people into the side streets, it increases traffic in the side streets, people blow through stop signs because they get frustrated. So there's all kinds of things, and we can't do it all in 90 seconds.
Thank you. Now, this is an interesting question. If elected, I pledge to blank, and if elected, I pledge that I will not blank. And if you have enough time, you can tell people why. The first one to answer this question is Ms. Diamond.
Sure. Okay, great. That's a great question. So I pledge to, well, I'm already on the council, so if I'm returned to the council, I plan to continue to have a fiscally responsible budgeting process, one that's open to the public, for the public to come and listen and see and hear exactly what goes on in the budget. Balanced budgeting is incredibly important to our community, as well as our fiscal health, which includes everything. The thing that I would pledge not to do is to be fiscally irresponsible. I think that we need to ensure that we don't raise taxes excessively, that there's not excessive borrowing, that we continue to improve our infrastructure while staying within the means that we have. We need to continue to look for other sources of funding, whether it be the state, whether it be the federal government, partnering with the private sector. We just recently had a meeting and unveiled what has been done at the Martin Luther King Center, which included a great partnership with Go Green, where we were able to upgrade and restore the Martin Luther King Center, while at the same time saving great amounts of money on electricity and different things. But the most important thing is to ensure that we have fiscal responsibility. At a time when the costs of running a municipality of this size are increasing, we need to make sure that we stay within our means and do so in a responsible manner. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nahan?
First part is, if elected to city council, I will pledge to work to end the toxic pay-to-play culture. I will start from day one as a city councilman who's not beholden to any party bosses, special interests, or any corporations, that I will not seek to have that type of influence on our city. Ultimately, I'm here to try and improve our city, our community. I really feel that I want what you want, and trying to get a study done so that we know what our options are for our aquifer. I value a scientific perspective, and having a study done to see if our aquifer could be treated the same way that it is in Orange County, California, where water is reused and recharged so that it could better defend itself from saltwater intrusion is extremely important, and we shouldn't push that down any farther. I will not start a re-election campaign on my first day. I will keep office and not seek higher office.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Thank you. One thing that I would pledge to do if elected to office is I'd work with you guys, work with the community. I look around this room and I see very familiar faces, faces that were here 2 weeks ago, and quite frankly, you guys are the voice, you know. I go to city council meetings and I see all you guys, and you know, just look what happened yesterday where the Democrats and the Republicans worked together, and now we have the sewage going out to the ocean, and you know, it's just like when you work together, that's 3 miles out into the ocean and it's treated sewage. When you work together, good things happen. So if I work with the community, I feel that good things will happen. And quite simply, a pledge that I will not live up to, or however the question was worded, I will not break my term. If I'm elected, whether it's to 2 years or 4 years, I could guarantee you my hand to God, I will serve every second of that term. I have no agenda of becoming a judge, an assembly person, a legislator, with respect to all the judges, assembly people, and legislators in here. That is not for me. I simply want to do service to Long Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Hack?
During the course of the summer, I spoke to literally thousands of residents out there, and their number one concern was that and of everybody I talked to, only one person thought that City Hall was operating in an above-board and transparent manner. So what I pledge to do is I'm going to make our operations more transparent. We are going to put the city's checkbook online. You're going to see the information that the city comptroller and the city manager gets, which includes revenues, which includes hirings, which includes firings. And as far as what I won't do, I will not take decisions from any outside influence.
Thank you. Mr. Mendel?
Okay, I would, and I do, pledge to continue to uphold my oath, which has always been to put the residents in the city first. And a lot of times that means making decisions that are not the popular decision, but the right decision. And I pledge not to cave in to other factors, whether it be the pressure from social media or anonymous attacks. I continue to pledge that I won't be swayed by that. And as for not pledging, I wouldn't take any steps that would put the city in jeopardy or that would jeopardize the city. For example, frivolous lawsuits that we have to deal with after the fact. So I pledge not to go into litigation for the sake of litigation or spite that other councils have to deal with down the line. The last thing is, I would also pledge to continue the open communication and transparency that this administration has established from day one. We're the first administration to put live streaming at every council meeting. First administration to have good and welfare at every council meeting. And no one ever has to wait for a council meeting to speak with a council member. We're accessible by email, by text, by phone, at City Hall. This fiction that you have to wait for a council meeting is just that. So, thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Blanchett?
Hi, thank you. So I pledge to listen to the residents and to treat you with respect, because you all deserve to be treated with respect when you step into City Hall. I pledge not to slam doors shut on you just because you're not part of my political circle. I pledge that I will be here and accountable to you. I pledge to take orders from you and I pledge not to take orders from a party boss because, well, I don't really have one. I'm on the Green Party. Also, just a quick shout out, Cassandra, running for county executive over there. I pledge to push for safer streets and to bring Vision Zero to Long Beach. I pledge to not treat victims of traffic violence like it's inevitable, like these are oopsie moments. That is my political party, is Vision Zero, is life, safe streets. And I pledge to not just talk about transparency like it's some kind of slogan, you know, oh, I'm transparent, transparent. Yeah, no, I pledge to not give you false slogans. I pledge to give you true transparency. I am the only person up here who has publicly called for an open government data. I want not just our budget online, but I want our checkbook online. So there you go.
Thank you. And Mr. Benzo?
Sure. So, probably the first thing I would pledge to do, quite frankly, is continue what I have been doing all these years, which is advocating on behalf of the residents to make life better for them here in Long Beach. Again, as president of the Civic Association and other things, we just do a lot of projects around this city to make things better, and I would continue those. One thing I would pledge to do is work with anyone. I'm not a party person. If you don't know, I am running on a Democratic line, but I'm actually an independent. And I've taken no money from any political party for my campaign, not one dime. So I don't have an allegiance to a party. I have an allegiance to the residents, so I will work with anyone. What I promise not to do is run for another office. I mean, you know, our city council has become a bit of an incubator for higher office. I'm all about from Nevada Avenue to Blackheath, from the Bay to the beach. That's all I'm interested in, is making this a better place. Another thing I pledge not to do is support the comprehensive plan in its current form. I think it fosters overdevelopment of our city, and I'm guessing we will get to a question on that probably at some point, so I won't go into too much detail on that, and my time is up.
Thank you. And Ms. Tozer?
Hello. So first, I plan to serve out my entire term. Hopefully, I will be able to serve everybody here and get on the council. I also pledge not to raise taxes. There are a lot of things, and people keep saying like, oh, you have to raise taxes every year. We actually don't have to raise taxes every year. There's ways to actually deal with inefficiencies and really bring that down, because I'm sure that everybody has seen their taxes going up, and we're just making this place unaffordable. Another thing that I plan on doing is actually defining what affordability means in this city, because we haven't done that yet. And that is something that is, you know, a tremendous thing for many people who are here. I pledge to fight for the environment, for resiliency and sustainability measures. This is something that is a huge thing for myself, and it should be for all of us. There is no reason that anything that is built or, you know, going up here in Long Beach should just be at FEMA compliancy. That just means that your stuff isn't going to get wet. But when you're building in New York City, every bit of rainwater that hits your land area has to be accounted for. How are we dealing with flood mitigation? These are things that are a tremendous issue for us, and we have to start thinking, because we're a barrier island, and this is something that we have to really get to. Something that I won't do. I'm not gonna give up. I work 7 days a week. This is something, oh my God, stop already. Oh my God. Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
I can't talk in a minute.
It's hard. The next question is, and I know that a lot of people are interested in this, do you think you can freeze taxes, deal with judgments without affecting services or reducing city workers? Be specific about how you would do it. And the first person to speak will be Mr. Nahan.
I would do everything to keep the budget from increasing. I'm going to be honest that it's in the state and the local legislature and the county's power to prevent taxes from increasing, and seeing long-term changes to lower them would involve, say, slashing the real estate taxes and changing it with a graduated county income tax, which a Green Party candidate for county executive, Cassandra Lenz, has proposed. And this has been proposed kind of on and off, but no one's ever actually stepped up and done it. And we have the opportunity to elect somebody who could actually improve our tax system in our county. Single payer, that's the state, but that would save the city of Long Beach $17.3 million, because we would not be paying employees health insurance to private insurers. These aren't things, I'm just being honest, that I wouldn't be able to affect, but I would champion for them on the behalf of our city. I think that there's a lot of patronage jobs here that are held by some incompetent people that are put on by political bosses that I would just remove, that would try and lower the taxes. And I don't think anyone's going to argue with that.
Thank
I
you.
don't have that much time, but I would talk to you more about this later.
Okay. Mr. Jones.
Thank you. Well, first and foremost, we'd have to look at the budget, and that's expenses. And right off the bat, we could look at our city manager is the highest paid executive on all of Long Island, and he certainly doesn't have the highest population. He's getting paid a lot more than people who have to deal with a lot more people than he does. There's other ways that we could, without eliminating jobs or cutting jobs, but we can monitor overtime. The overtime budget usually exceeds what it's supposed to be far earlier than the budget year. As well, you know, you hear things about no-show jobs, and I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but it's something that you take a good hard look at. You know, we talk a lot about, when we meet amongst ourselves, having a forensic audit. Come take a look at the books. With regards to the judgments and you know, the lawsuits against us, you know, we're just going to have to take it step by step, one day at a time, seek legal advice, and do what we can, and realize it wasn't us who got us in that mess. That's about it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Hott.
Before we get into like any discussion on taxes and budget and everything, we've been pushing for an independent forensic audit on our books here, because we're not sure where we stand fiscally. We do know that we just had an audit done by the state comptroller, Tom DiNapoli, who said that Long Beach was under moderate fiscal stress, which is the second worst level, and it's due to the fact that we're borrowing too much. But with that said, Leah, Chris, and I have promised that we are going to freeze taxes, and we plan on doing it by running Long Beach as a well-run business, like it's our own, where we're going to be beholden to our constituents, which is our taxpayers, the business, and the customers. And then specifically, we have some ideas where we're going to save. Is number one, we're going to reduce payroll down to fiscal 14-15 year through retirements. That was the method that was done by Mr. Santino out in Hempstead, where he was able to deliver his first balanced budget in over 20 years. We're also going to incorporate more of the city under the STAT program, which is a performance program. It's based on metrics. We're going to use other best practices of other municipalities. And then finally, we're going to be pushing forward for an amended comprehensive plan, which will open us up to grants. If you ever can't sleep at night, read the comprehensive plan. And in the back, there it lists literally hundreds of millions of dollars in grants that we're entitled to.
Thank you. Mr. Mandel.
Well, first and foremost, I'm sure everybody is aware, this administration actively sought to have additional audits. We actually have 3 audits every year, 2 by the state and 1 by an external auditor. And you can't get more transparent than that. The budget is available online, it always has been, and we're one of the first administrations to have an itemized budget. So when we have a conversation about freezing taxes or reducing fees, I would like, as a resident myself, to hear specifics. What fees would be cut? What services would be reduced? The budget is an open document, it always has been. I'd like to hear specifics. To say we're going to freeze taxes, to promise, to pledge that, I think is probably bordering on a little bit of recklessness. We have to sustain this city. We have to make sure services account. The majority of the budget are fixed fees that come out of collective bargaining agreements, health care that has to be provided. This city administration has been very, very successful in right-sizing the workforce, in getting back concessions from working with our union brothers and sisters, getting contributions to health care. It's easy as a candidate to make promises and pledges. It's a much different conversation when you're actually an elected official and know exactly what the budget is made of and what can and can't be cut. This city council has been very instrumental in shaking down the budget and reducing everywhere we could, and going after any and all grant money to subsidize. So I would be interested to hear specifically what fees, what services would be reduced. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Blanchett.
Thank you. So just to follow that up as far as transparency and the current budget being online and itemized, that's great, but you know, PDFs don't do us much good. We need an actual online budget and our checkbook to be online that's searchable, that's usable, that we can dig into, and not just, you know, budget and checkbook, but everything. So I'm going back to that open data, because if we're going to be talking about taxes, if we're going to be talking about, you know, trying to at least hold some line on taxes, and we're going to be talking about finances, we really need to address what our finances are, what our budget is. We need to have this online. So, yeah, opening government data, you know, that, my plan, I think it exceeds outdated suggestions of addressing transparency simply through having that budget online that's itemized. So basically what this means is, you know, residents are going to be able to explore city expenditures, revenue, liabilities, assets, payroll, contracts, taxes, utilities, everything online. You know, that creates greater government transparency, honesty, accountability, efficiency, civic engagement, community activism, and economic growth, and it cuts down on waste. And let's be real, we have a lot of waste, and a lot of that waste is on the 5th floor. We've got bloated, upper level, assistant, deputy assistant, whoever is 5 million people in the city manager's office making far too much money. That in itself, we could cut taxes. Oh, I'll stop.
What's the water? Look, a simple fact about taxes and the city budget. What people may not recognize and may not want to hear is that the bulk of the city budget goes to employee salaries, employee benefits, and paying off the city's debt. That's almost probably 90% of the city budget right there. There's very little money left in the budget for discretionary spending. The problem is people want $1.50 worth of services, but only want to pay $1 for it. quite frankly, we need to do a couple of things. We need to have a very serious discussion about what are the priorities of the residents. What do you want and what are you willing to pay for? Then we also need to increase revenues. We can't keep going back to people and raising taxes. Our bank accounts are not a renewable resource, but sometimes government treats it as such. What I would like to see do to increase revenues is I would like to institute a real estate transfer tax. What that is if somebody moves to Long Beach, they pay a tax of 1 to 2% of the value of the home, and that goes to the city for a dedicated process. They've been doing this out east for 20 years. They've raised $1 billion for land preservation out there. We could allocate that money to infrastructure improvements to fix our crumbling infrastructure. Got to stop.
Thank you. Ms. Tozer.
This is exciting for me. Okay. So I'm going to talk about a few things. Okay. So I own a business. Okay. So when you have to run a business, let me not even say business. How many of you have budgets in your home? I am a family of 4, and we have a budget every month, right? Sometimes we're asked to do more, right? We have to do more with little, right? Because are your salaries going up like crazy every year when your services are going up? We're not talking about cutting services, but we're talking about doing things efficiently. Not just raising your taxes so that you can't afford to live here. I mean, do we want Long Beach to be for millionaires and day trippers? I mean, this is where we're going, right? Let's just throw taxes on to everybody. And the tax that John is talking about, they do in Southampton for environmental preservation. So if you're selling your house, and your house on an average right now is $500,000 for some people, now somebody coming in is going to pay an extra $10,000 to buy it, and if you want to downsize and buy something else in maybe one of the buildings, now you're going to have to pay another 2% and then a flip tax going out. So I don't know that that's the answer for everybody. And then let me bring us back to the comprehensive plan, okay? It's a draft plan right now, and you know, the city budget was passed basically saying the comprehensive plan on almost every single page. That money isn't going to keep coming in if we don't have a comprehensive plan on the books. There are a few things in there that have to be discussed, but with everybody. Everybody has to do this together. You can't, I was on the CAC committee for over 2 years, and since this has been tabled in March, we have still not been called and asked to come to speak to everybody. I have to stop, but I could talk about this for about an hour.
Ms. Diamond.
Thank you very much. And look, in a perfect world, it's easy to say that nobody will raise taxes, that no fees will go up, and that nothing will happen. But what we cannot do is go back to the employees who are our workforce, who are the backbone of our city, and say that we're going to bring down or lay off or remove them or take away overtime. We run a city, whether it be our fire, whether it be our police, whether it be our CSEA employees. These are the employees and the people that we turned to after Sandy, whether it was for security, whether it was for repairs. We can't say that we're going to freeze taxes and do so on their backs. It just isn't the process. If you want to know how to hold the line on taxes, it's to continue to partner with other governments, whether it be the state in terms of sewer consolidation or grant funding. We have a great state senator who's provided us with a number of different grants and programs and access to different funding sources. We need to continue to seek out those opportunities for us to bring different services here. We need to continue to seek out private sector opportunities where we can partner with the private sector and do things that are beneficial to our city, whether it be arts, whether it be bulkheading, whether it be upgrading different facilities. These are opportunities for us to hold the line on fees, on taxes, but ensure at the same time that we can continue to provide the services and the programs that we've come to expect and love and cherish in our city. So I strongly believe that the answer you need to look for is what is the plan behind the promises that you're being given. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, a lot of attention has been given to the beach side to prevent flooding. What about the bayfront? Why isn't it getting as much attention and funding? And what are you going to do about this? The first person to answer will be Mr. Jones.
Well, I'm glad that you asked me that first because history of the storms in Long Beach, I've always noticed that the Bayside has always gotten it worse than the beach side. I remember specifically in 1992 there was a nor'easter, and sorry Mom, but I had to walk to Lindell School that day. And Lindell School is on the bay, and I swear I was in waist-high water. It is a major epidemic, that Bayside. With regards to the bulkheads, I was at the Canal Civic Association meeting about 2 weeks ago, and they were discussing this, and you know, it's a $60,000 fix for the private homes. They either have to borrow that money from the city, which is bonding it, or they got to do it themselves, and it's a costly fix, and it's not easy. So, oh, you got me good with that one. But you know, for as long as I've been living here, I always said that the canals get it way worse than the beach, and lately we've been seeing it. We've been seeing it with Sandy, and we have to move forward with the bulkhead project. I myself just bought a house in the canals, and clearly I want to see that job done. Thank you.
Thank you.
I live in the West Home
Mr. Haas.
area.
Yes.
And it does, it was worse on Sandy on the Bayside than it was on the beach side. Money's just dried up for the bulkhead fix, so it's gonna have to be done through capital money. Now, basically infrastructure type projects. Now, infrastructure type projects is something I am familiar with. I work for Verizon. I see the struggle that they have with spending capital money and making permanent fixes or putting Band-Aids on it and basically kicking the can down the line. Where it works best is where the leaders are involved and they see where the most important aspects are to get fixed, and they get down there and they know what's going on. And not only that, they put the right people in place and they motivate them so that the job is done on time, accurately, and in budget. If I'm a city councilman, I'm going to know what's going on there, and I'm going to be very resourceful with our resources.
Thank you. Mr. Mandel.
Thank you. As Mr. Jones highlighted, this is a problem that's plagued Long Beach for decades, even back to 1992. And then after Sandy, it just seemed to have been exacerbated. The Bayside needs protection. It's something that we've already started looking to. We were successful in getting the Army Corps to come back to Long Beach after they were rejected years ago and told to go away. We got them to work on the beach side. We have them looking at the Bayside already with the Back Bay study. The goal is to make sure that flooding and the rising water table doesn't really kill our Bayside. But I don't think it's going to take one solution. I think bulkheading is the start. I think it's in combination with other creative ideas, Dutch dams, the tide flex valves that predate me, but may not be the 100% answer. But if we get this working in conjunction with other methods, that could be the solution. It's not a topic that can be summed up quickly. It's something that's plagued the city for a long, long time, but it's something that needs to be resolved. And I believe this is the administration that started that conversation and has actually moved the ball forward with using the Army Corps, bringing in different projects, trying to partner with the state, the federal government, and also looking for grant money. Nothing's ever perfect, but the result of not having the conversation, not trying to do something, is definitely not the answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Blanchett.
Thank you. I don't know if this is ever going to be fully resolved because we are living on a barrier island. I think maybe we shouldn't be living so largely on a barrier island. We're fighting nature here. So on the Bayside, I'm extremely concerned across the board, but the North Park flooding area has been extremely problematic, and that's something that I'd really like to look more into. And then, I see Mr. Dubow is here. Hi, Mr. Dubow. So Mr. Dubow's been showing up to city council meetings for a while with your, I'm assuming, wife or girlfriend. And I know that it's been, mistress, not touching. So I know it's been a real hardship for you because, so the New York State Governor's Office of Storm Recovery, they awarded us, we thought it was going to be like $12.5 million to do the bulkheading across the Bayside, and it turns out it's a little more than double that, I believe. So what that means is our public land is going to be, you know, eventually secured, but then our private homes are not. So that people like Mr. Dubois is on the hook for maybe $50,000. So it's kind of like, you know, a hurricane comes and you put sandbags up, but there's going to be a bunch of gaping holes because not all private homeowners can afford that. So I'm going to stop.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bendo.
Okay, well, I guess I could start basically by telling you what I have done on this issue. I was part of the Community Reconstruction Zone Committee after Sandy, where we were given $25 million to build back more resilient, build some protections in. There was a project we proposed to bulkhead the North Shore. It was going to be two projects. The state was going to bulkhead from the train station to Long Beach Road, and we were going to bulkhead the rest of the North Shore. The state didn't like it, they didn't want to do it, but myself and some other members of the committee kind of rammed it down the state's throat. Unfortunately, nothing happened for a couple of years, and we were recently told that there was an error. We're not told who made it, but there was an error, and that our $12.5 million project that we allocated for bulkheading is now going to be $28 million. What we'd like to do right now is take the rest of the $25 million that we were given and reallocate that to the bulkheading. We think that's the #1 priority for protecting Long Beach. We flood from the Bayside first. We had also identified other projects, the tide flex valves that Scott had mentioned. If you don't know what that is, that's sort of, think of it like a doggy door that you have in your door. It's what goes in the pipe, and what it will do is we'll let water flow out into the bay, but it won't let it flow back in during a flooding event. We need tide flex valves in our lines, and then we need to maintain them once they're in there. I'm sorry I'm nerding out as an engineer on this a little bit. And the other thing we can look at is things like floodgates for the, and gotta stop.
Thank you. Ms. Tozer.
So my house during Sandy, we were on Pine and Laurelton, between Magnolia and Laurelton, sorry. So that's where the ocean and the bay met each other. And my house was completely destroyed. I had a sinkhole, busted the foundation. It was quite crazy, as most of us had to go through that. The flooding on the bay is a huge, huge problem because that's where everything backs up. But there's many levels to this issue that we have to take care of in a comprehensive way. And I thought it was kind of crazy that with all the committees and the state coming down, that nobody thought about the private homeowners, especially those on West Bay Drive. That all of a sudden, when they found out that if it comes by, we have to rip out all of your decks, your dock, and no one's going to replace it for you. So how is all of these things just left out? And we'll go back to this. So everybody talks about all of these great ideas, doing the floodgates. They do this all over Europe already. I'll go into that, but then I'll be nerding out on that stuff. But the thing is where does this money come from? Right? We're talking about this. This is hundreds of millions of dollars. This is not cheap fixes at all, just like New York State undervalued how much it was going to cost to do this. This is the only way to get these grants for New York State to want to go into a repetitive loss area is to actually have a comprehensive plan that we have to get together and pass. Because if we don't do it, how are we going to pay for this? I gotta stop.
Thank you. Ms. Diamond.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to clear up a couple of different things. While there was a miscalculation in the amount of money that had been dedicated for the bulkhead study and the bulkheading project on the North Shore, the city has provided an opportunity for our residents to finance it through the city, and in decreasing the cost of it associated with it as well, because you're essentially collectively negotiating for the price for those things. So it wasn't as if we just left residents with nothing. While it's not perfect, and the bulkheading project needs to continue, it is certainly a place to start, and we've given our residents the opportunity to do it through the city. With that said, in addition to the back-based study that's being undertaken, we do have the critical infrastructure project, which will protect the North Park section of town from excessive flooding. It includes certain flood mitigation. It's a large project that we've partnered with, again, Senator Todd Kaminsky and the state in providing the funding for this project. This is the project that's going to include pumps and mitigation that will prevent and alleviate some of the flooding. In addition, other things that prevent and deal with flooding are the street repairs. Our street repairs are not just a paving and we kind of move on from just putting down some new blacktop or whatever it is. I'm not an expert in paving or in cement, but we actually go underneath and put in the proper drainage and put in the proper flood mitigation and valves to ensure that we can alleviate some of the flooding that's taking place. And that type of project not only takes place on the Bay side, but it takes place throughout the city. So those are some of the things that we've done and we can continue to do. And again, search for funding sources that provide us with opportunities to continue to build our bulkheading. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dahan.
So would you mind repeating the question? I know we're talking about bulkheads, but was the question also about the beach?
It was about bayfront flooding. I'll repeat it.
Thank you.
What about the bayfront? It said the beach flooding is getting a lot of attention.
Okay.
And then what about the bayfront front? Why isn't it getting as much attention and funding? And what are you going to do about it?
So I come from a unique perspective where I lived half my life on the bay side, the other half on the ocean side in this man-made barrier island. And I mean, what is prevalent is that if you're sandbaking your house, you look to see if there's any gaps, holes, and you look for the weakest link. You audit, you monitor. If there's a hole that you're trying to prevent water that's threatening to come into your house, into your property, you close that gap, close that hole. So if we're seeing a bulkheading project right now that has holes, that's compromising the entire integrity of our neighborhood, which as someone who I've lived here all my life, I don't want to see that happen. So I think we should try to work and take in grants to put those bulkheading in place. They're very much needed. I think outside of the box ideas are the best ideas for an island that was built by man. Like Dutch dams were mentioned before. Those could very well easily prevent water from the inlets coming inside to our back bay. There's other ideas too. I mean, tidal flex valves, yes. I mean, it's a broken record, but they're integral to keeping water from coming in from the sewers. So basically, as I've tried to make it before, my biggest pet peeve is seeing holes in the bulkheading, and I would work to try to make sure they're not holes.
Thank you. Next question. What is your position on the I-STAR tax break for developers? What is your position on the development of the property at the Hebrew School in the West Home area? And the first to speak will be Mr. Haas.
The I-STAR project was the original reason that I decided to run for office when I read about the city maneuvering us into a situation where we either offer a $130 million tax break or we get sued for $100 million. I got angry, and that's what sparked me to run. I think that a really good example of what we're faced with here in Long Beach is right around the block from me. It's at 535 West Market. If you ever drive by there, it's two buildings, it's two houses where the builder basically just puts a piece of wood across to make it a single building. And it's just indicative of what we face here. These people are going to come in here at any cost to make a buck, and they don't care about our residents. As far as I-STAR goes, we are plaintiffs in a lawsuit to stop it. We feel that their application, their permits have expired, and they have to appear before the board. And also, as far as stopping over development, we plan on creating a bipartisan, reconstituting a bipartisan zoning board. We're going to announce whoever's being appointed to it 30 days prior to the next city council meeting, so you can hear what we ask them questions.
Thank you. Mr. Mandel.
We always have flooding at the table too, so we're trying to be careful. First and foremost, just going in reverse order, I'm against the Howe project. I've spoken out publicly against the Howe project. Overdevelopment, unreasonable development in Long Beach should not be tolerated, and that's really one of the crucial reasons we need to revise our zoning code through the comprehensive plan. Now, regarding the I-Star project, which is probably one of the most misunderstood and twisted topics during this campaign. In 2011, the then Republican administration sued I-Star. Because of that suit, there are certain things that I can't, as an elected official, discuss. My personal opinions don't matter. I've taken an oath that I can't put the city in jeopardy. However, when there came a time in 2011 where our corporation counsel told the city council, we started this lawsuit, we've lost at every level of court, we've had our claims dismissed, and at that point we've already spent over $500,000 to get there. We have a settlement proposal. The city took that proposal in the best interest of the city and at the recommendation of our corporation council. We also received substantial benefits for the city, including $5.2 million, replacement of archaic infrastructure from Beach Street all the way up to Park Avenue. I-Star walked away from tax certiorari claims against the city for about $200,000. The project itself, I can't speak to because I'm not on the zoning board. There are things that have to go before the zoning board and also before the IDA. We can't control that. Thank you.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. What is your position on the I-Star tax break for developers? And what is your position on the development of the property at the Hebrew School in the West Home area? You're welcome.
Okay. So, addressing I-Star first, the development itself, the zoning variance that went through, I just think the whole thing was a big fix. That variance, it's way too high, offers nothing for the current landscape. It would tax our infrastructure, and it doesn't really address the kind of housing that we do need in Long Beach, and that's affordable housing. I just really think the whole thing was fixed from the get-go, and I think it's really unfortunate that the city council person sitting next to me can't speak about it. He can't represent, or the whole city council can't represent the best interests of Long Beach residents because he's bound by a lawsuit. And that's wrong, that you ever put yourself in that position, because your job is to represent us, and you're representing the developer, and that's not right. And I think it's just really, it's just gross. I can't believe that you're legally obligated to be silent on
That is
representing
an
us.
irresponsible accusation.
So,
You better take
excuse
it back.
me, can you remove her, please?
No. We'll let her have her say, and then other people will respond.
Ms. Banton,
Candidates.
So, and as far as the tax breaks go from the IDA, my running mate, Joseph Nam, and I, we're categorically opposed to corporate
Your time's
handouts. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Do I get time for that outbreak?
2 seconds.
No,
Okay.
but Mr. Bendo.
Anybody that followed the I-Star issue knows very clearly where I stand on this. I personally organized and held numerous public meetings here in the library and other places. I had a head-on-head debate with Carl Frey, the senior vice president of I-Star, about this. This was a hideously bad deal for the residents of this city. Twice, I and other people that were working with me have managed to beat back iStar. Once on a $129 million tax break, almost 130. The second time on $109 million. There's word they're coming back for a third attempt. The number I'm hearing now is $82 million. Even if they got that $82 million, I take great pride in knowing that there will be $48 million more in taxes that iStar will pay because of what I and the people that I worked with on this issue did. This is a $5.5 billion company that doesn't want to pay its taxes, but they expect us to do that. It's just ridiculous, and not only that, it sets hideously bad precedent for future developers that come into the city and will expect the same thing. And let's shift to Halb then. Halb is looking to build, at one point, it was going to be a hideously oversized building for that area. It's sized for 3 stories. They were proposing 12 at one point. They keep changing the project. And guess what Halb can point at because of that? iStar. Because where iStar was located was zoned for 10 stories, and the city agreed, well, the zoning board, I should say, agreed to let them do a 17-story building. It's ridiculous.
Thank you. Ms. Tozer.
When iStar was first coming here to look to build their development, I was one of the first people to actually ask the question, are you going to be going for a tax abatement? Because I know that developers always look to go for tax abatement. So that was one of my first questions when they said, no, we're not going for one. So that's how it was going. They weren't going for one, and then all of a sudden they were. So that's a big problem because tax abatements for large-scale developments like that are usually given in blighted areas. I don't know about you, but waterfront property to me on Barrier Island would not seem to me to be a blighted area. So that's my feeling on that. I don't need to go where everybody's hitting on that very well. The Halb project. So the only way to stop this overdevelopment is to change the zoning because we have to talk about height restrictions full stop on every piece of property that's in Long Beach. Right, there's another development that people are going to be buying like 3 houses, knocking it down, and then they're able to build another wall. I mean, these are the things that we don't want. And if we don't want them, then why aren't we pushing forward to get this out of the hands of just the zoning board? You know, the zoning board is working with building codes and zoning codes from like the 1980s. I mean, this is not, I gotta stop, but this is not where we are, and we have to move forward with this.
Ms. Diamond, thank you.
Thank you. It's clear that one of the most important issues that Long Beach faces is ensuring that any development is both smart and sustainable and answers the questions that the residents have and serves our goals of ensuring that what is here and what continues to be built fits in with our community and is what we want. Similar to Councilman Mandel, unfortunately, and I just want to clarify, the lawsuits that restrain us from speaking about certain issues are not lawsuits that we filed. They're lawsuits that have either been threatened or filed against us, some of which are by my opponents who are sitting here on the council. To the extent that there are things that we can speak about, I'll say this. Just to clarify, pilots are not provided by the city. The city doesn't give a payment in lieu of taxes. That's what a pilot is. We don't provide that. Those are given by an independent, the Industrial Development Agency, which is, they're not here. They don't live in Long Beach. They are not appointed by anybody in Long Beach. They're located in Mineola, and they're asked to make a decision that affects and impacts us directly. So really the issue that we need to understand is why are they making those decisions for us? And more importantly, why are they making those types of decisions on a project that isn't necessarily going to serve our purposes? We need to understand that pilots should be for certain types of projects, and I wouldn't support pilots for residential property. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Naham.
Thank you. So I just want to make it clear that I am not suing anybody. It's important. I'm the Green Party. Anyways, I'm totally against irrational development. I've been a strong opponent of iStar. It's a $336 million project, right? And the developer was looking for between 129 and out to $82 million in tax abatements. And like it was echoed before, it's on waterfront property. Ask any architect, would you ever build a high-rise on waterfront property? They say no, it's not done. It's not architecturally sound to build on the shoreline. You don't build high on the shoreline. So I'm the best environmentalist to stand up and fight against development that's just irrational. It's gonna really stress our natural resources, and that's just the sense that you'll get from me about this issue, and I'm not for the overdevelopment as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Just a little background about myself. I am a union worker. I am a sheet metal worker. I basically provide Manhattan with air conditioning, and whoever provided us with air conditioning tonight did a very good job. It's a reason. We go about talking about endorsements here, and one endorsement I did not get was from the Long Island Fed, and that is because, and it should have been a gimme, being a union worker. They should have just gave me that endorsement. They did not give me that endorsement because I told them, the dozen of them that interviewed me, that I am not in favor of the iStar project here in Long Beach. They gave me 15 reasons why this project should go down, and I gave them 16 reasons why it shouldn't. Basically, it's changing the dynamics of Long Beach, the way I grew up. Allison was talking about affordable housing. How come affordable housing is $500,000 now? John was talking about having, you open up Pandora's box, basically, is what he said. And that's what happened with the HAL project, too. We need smart building here. And yes, I would love to see it built Union, but there was no PLA signed. There was nothing like that. Let's keep the big buildings in Manhattan and just keep it smart here. Build smart, build resilient, and move forward that way. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have some words from the League of Women Voters.
I'd like to thank everybody for your commitment showing up tonight, especially the Long Beach Library. My name's Veronica Rose. I am the co-chair with Sarah Nichols. We would also like to make available for everyone tonight, we have videotaped the candidates forum in its entirety. If you'd like to see it at any other time or share it with anyone, please feel free to go to the website www.leagueofwomenvotersofnassaucounty.org. In the back table there, we also have our 2017 They Represent You. The website is listed on the bottom for your convenience. Again, thank everyone for coming out tonight. Your donations are sincerely appreciated and what help keep us giving back to the community. Thank you. LWV of Nassau County. Thank you.
Okay, we are ready for closing statements. Closing statements will be in the opposite order of the opening statements. So, Mr. Bendo, you're on first.
You're up to bat.
All right, I'm sure everybody's getting ready to go home. So, I'm running because I'm hoping to offer something a little different than what we have now. If you look at Washington, and even here in the city to some degree, and politics in this country has become a contact sport. It's about sticking your finger in the other person's eye. It's about sticking together and doing things together as a team, even when it's not the right thing to do, so the team wins and not the people you're supposed to represent. I think we need something different. I think we need somebody that puts the residents before anything else. Now, people get endorsements. Endorsement shouldn't be necessarily what sways you to vote, but I have 4 endorsements. I have Senator Kaminsky and the Civil Service Employees Association of the city. They endorsed the Democratic slate. The police department endorsed Republicans and me, and the fire department endorsed only me. The point being, I will work with anybody. I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, or the Bull Moose Party. I will work with anyone because the goal here is not politics, it's making our city a better place for all of us. Thank you.
Ms. Blanchett.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to start off by saying that I'm very proud to have been endorsed by seebythecity.com. So, I'm not a politician. I'm an advocate. I'm a professional advocate. It's what I do. I advocate for people's public health and transportation. I do a little bit of planning. I do a lot of grant writing. And this is just what I do. I do this primarily out on Long Island. I'm up in Albany a lot, and I'm down in DC every year. And I've been doing this for several years. This is what I enjoy doing. I love doing public outreach. I love government. I just enjoy all of this stuff. And I'm running not because of, I'm seeking higher office or any of that stuff. I'm proudly running with the Green Party because there's no party politics. I'm not a political insider. I just want to do really good things. I want to champion amazing things for this city. And that's it. I'm very open to working with anyone, including the Bull Moose Party. So that's it. I'm just a very honest, open person that just want to represent what's best for the city. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mandel.
Thank you. Once again, I want to thank the League of Women Voters. I want to thank all of you for your time and consideration tonight. And I want to thank the library for hosting tonight's forum. While it's very easy to sit up as a candidate and share your thoughts and ideas and your aspirations, it's very different when you're an elected official. And I'm very proud of what the city has done. Yesterday we celebrated, memorialized Sandy. And I closed my eyes when I drove home, and I remembered exactly what we went through during Sandy. I then opened my eyes and I looked how far the city has come, and how far we've moved things, every park being renovated, trees replanted, and really how the city emerged stronger, smarter, and safer. I don't think we're done yet. I'd like to help be a part of continuing that progress. Nothing is ever perfect, and nothing ever will be. But I think in the last 6 years, we've moved this city ahead much farther than any prior administration. We've righted the budget, something that was decimated by the prior Republican administration. And we've taken steps to make this city the most transparent, budget-wise, communication-wise, and any other method possible, even having our own city app where you can report problems and not have to wait to come to a council meeting or call up and wonder if it's going to be remedied. These are things that we've done. There's more that we'd like to do. I don't think a change now benefits, and I wouldn't want to go backwards. Thank you.
Mr. Haas.
Thank you for all coming down and allowing us to answer your questions. There's so many people here, I can't believe it still. It shows the spirit here in Long Beach, and I really want to be a part of that. Growing up, I played a lot of ice hockey. I played around the clock. I played from when I was like 5 until I was 18. I was the captain on every team I played except for one. And that team didn't do too good. And then I went into the Navy, and I thought I was like on the greatest team the world's ever seen. And I currently work in a work center where we've been #1 in New York for 5 years straight. So I know a little bit about teams, and Jones, Haas, and Tozier is an awesome team. And I think that things that make up a good team is #1, trust, #2, motivation, and #3, a common goal. And I trust Leah and Chris like I trust my brother and sister, which is 100%. They're 100% motivated to serve you folks in Long Beach. and we are committed to our slate of stopping overdevelopment, stop holding the line on taxes, and bringing good government back to City Hall. One of the best days of my life was the day that I raised my hand and was sworn as an ensign in the Navy. It was a privilege to serve, and it'll be a privilege to serve the residents of Long Beach, and I know Chris and Leah feel the same way, so thank you.
Well, in closing, I'd really like to thank the league. I'd like to thank the library and its staff. I'd like to thank you guys in the audience. I really meant it. Even if we disagree on certain things, you guys help move Long Beach in the right direction. And then I want to just send kudos to everyone up here tonight. This is not easy, and there are 8 days left, and I'm sure we could all agree that we hope that next Tuesday kind of comes somewhat abruptly. I feel like a human. Sometimes I feel invincible. I feel very much human lately. And you know, it's been a great run, and you know, I am looking forward to Election Day. You know, I just told you guys I'm a sheet metal worker, aka a tin knocker. Not your quintessential politician, but I am a worker. I will work for you guys. We will work for you guys. Let us work for you guys. Let us learn from you, because you all have so much to teach us. We are willing, open and willing to hear you out, so we could do a better job for you. We will be your voice, and we won't let you down. On November 7th, vote row B, the Republican line, Tozer, Haas, Jones. You could also find us on the Reform line, the Conservative line, and the Independence line. Good night and God bless.
Mr. Mayhem.
So, I'm married to a wonderful pregnant wife who teaches yoga on this stage. And I wish she told me ahead of time how cold it was up here.
He's right about the
yeah. But I've worked in the horticultural sector, the solar sector. I'm starting a oyster farm in the Peconic Bay. I really value the environment, grassroots movement. I'm in the Green Party. I'm trying to engage people, connect with them, bring them into, you know, civics. It's important. We actually have, for the first time, a Green Party county executive candidate here tonight too, Cassandra Lems. It's fantastic. Just being alive right now, you don't have to get distracted with what's going on in the national. I'm focused on Long Beach. It's a family of mine. I'm fourth generation Long Beach. So yeah, echoing everybody else, let's go out and vote on November 7th. Thanks for being here, Mom, Dad, Stephen, my wife. I'm really honored to be sitting at the same table with veterans who served, and I wish you a happy Veterans Day the week following Election Day. And have a good Election Day, everybody.
First, I just want to thank the League, as well as the library, as well as all of you for coming out here in this type of environment where it's fair and unbiased, where we can exchange ideas and really understand and learn from each other and the issues and the important issues that face our city. As I mentioned earlier, I have a background in public sector and in public service and municipal government. And it is in that capacity that I have had a front row seat to see how government is run, whether it was a municipal attorney, labor relations specialist, or the clerk of the legislature, where I worked closely with our legislator to understand how government works and what really goes into passing balanced and fair budgeting and making sure that the services that we continue to provide are there for all of us to enjoy. I have led a strong career in public service with integrity and commitment, and that is why I've been endorsed by State Senator Todd Kaminsky, Congresswoman Kathleen Rice, Congressman Tom Swazi, Minority Leader Kavan Abrahams, as well as the Long Beach CSCA. I can be found on the Working Families Party, the Women's Equality Party, and I hope that next Tuesday you'll come out and support me and my team so that we can continue to do the work that we've done for the city in the short time that I've been on the council. I look forward to continuing to do that work. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, It is freezing. Oh my God. So thank you to the League of Women Voters and for everybody coming out. It's just awesome to be up here. You know, I want to say again, you know, I'm a registered Democrat. I'm running on the Republican line with 2 Republicans. We're also on the Independence line, the Conservative, and the Reform Party as well. So when people talk about party politics and people will talk about past administrations, I just have to get this out. You know, when they talk about that past administration, the city manager and the assistant city manager are dead, and I didn't know them, and I didn't know anything going on then. And I'm not a politician. I am a mother. I own a business. I'm a business person. I work 7 days a week. So when you want something done, you have to give it to a busy person because we get things done. I have an amazing team because I'm running with a team. We're not fighting with each other because you have to work together. We would work with anybody for the benefit of the city and our residents. But we have to, you know, bear in mind that we need to think about our future, not just this year or next year, but in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years. And we all have to work together. Everybody needs a seat at the table. And I hope that you elect myself, my 2 running mates, so that we can be the voice of everybody. I mean, this is really a community. It's just the most amazing community, and I just love being here. Thank you very much.
And thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm so impressed with the city of Long Beach. What a great turnout, a lot of interest.
I waited. I wanted to go home.